You mentioned that reading or skills in reading helps skills in listening. And I was interested in the proportions that you talked about in the classroom situation. You said that most classroom situations are 80% teachers talking and 20% children listening.
Yes.
Can you expand on the relationship between listening skills and reading?
That's a very good question. It was Stanislaus Dehaene's research that was published in the journal Science in 2010, where he showed that, I think it was 2010, but he showed that when you teach Brazilians who are illiterate, who have not learned Portuguese, not learned to read Portuguese, to read, or when you compare literate speakers of Portuguese with non-literate speakers of Portuguese, one of the big differences is listening skills, that they follow directions better. They're much better able to handle auditory information, and that's kind of surprising. And he especially said it was in the phonological area, so that their phonological processing improves. So it's kind of cyclical, isn't it, that if you have poor phonological processing, you often have problems learning to read, which in turn, if you have problems to read, seems to keep you from developing phonological processing skills. But I think the importance about that is that they are, that they build on each other. Reading and auditory and listening skills build on each other. And there is research showing 80% of instruction in classrooms, in elementary school classrooms, is teacher talking, students listening. So building auditory listening skills, whether you build them through reading if you can, but build them aside from reading. Even if you have a child who's struggling to read, if you can build their language skills, then you're giving them the opportunity to learn in a classroom better. If then on top of that you can get them reading better, you enhance it even further.
One of the experiences that I've had in the classroom is that most kids hate reading. And so if the kids say to me, "Oh, I don't like reading," then and then I keep saying to them, "Why are you having problems listening?" I'm wondering, do we have a spiraling problem here? How do we intervene there?
It is a spiraling problem, and I think that's what teachers discover, is that children who are having trouble learning to read don't like to read, so they don't read. And they also start not doing well in school for a variety of reasons. They might have started with the phonological problem to start with, so they're not good listeners in the beginning, and then they're not reading and building that. Plus, teachers enjoy working with students who like to learn. And when a student's struggling, teachers get frustrated, just like the students get frustrated. And it does become spiraling, so the gap increases over time. So children who start off, again, my wonderful professor Doris Johnson used to say, when a child is dyslexic, not only are they having trouble reading, their IQ will actually decline over time. The ability of them to benefit from education in general decreases. They can't learn from reading, and now we know they have more trouble listening in the classroom. So it cascades. And a child might be a year behind in year one and might be 7, 8, 9 years behind later on.
So do we just get teachers to talk less?
Well, I would say, rather than have teachers talk less, since so much teaching is just innately teachers talking, would be to improve the listening skills of children, to augment and give them more exercises that really build their capacity to listen well. Because I'm afraid if we go away from teachers talking to more multimedia kinds of things, we're actually going to decrease listening skills even further.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a moment, but I was kind of hoping that you'd say we could just talk less.
For people who don't like to listen, I think that would be a nice solution.
And can you elaborate a little bit more on this concept of, and I think this is related, of building the brain rather than just remembering delivered content? I think you were saying that as teachers, we're not just, or delivering content is actually secondary to building the brain's capacity.
Yes, I think that's some of the exciting research that's going on in neuroscience, is discovering that educators don't just impart content. but they actually are building the capacity to solve problems. They're building the capacity to reason. They're building the capacity to be organized and to be goal-oriented. And all of that is built into our educational system as much as we've built in content. Unfortunately, we test content. We say, okay, at the end of year 3, has the student mastered multiplication? We don't say, is the student able to solve a novel problem they've never seen before? Or is the student better able to plan ahead for a book report? And that's much harder to assess. But neuroscience is showing that's an important effect of educating students.